8 weirdest things that were normal in the Middle Ages. 1. Putting animals on trial. Animals could be tried and convicted. Pigs were often charged with assaulting humans. They were sentenced to death by hanging. In 1474, a rooster was found guilty of an unnatural crime. Apparently, he had laid an egg. There was even a dolphin trial in Marseille in 1596. 2. Letting court jesters get away with anything. Jesters were also granted unique privileges. Everything they said was to be considered a jest. They would suffer no consequences. Louis XII's jester, Triboulet, once slapped him on the butt. The king demanded an excuse from the jester.
"I'm so sorry, Your Majesty,"
Triboulet said.
"I mistook you for the queen."
When the king offered Triboulet to choose how he'd die, he said,
"I choose to die from old age."
3. Divorcing by combat. Trial by combat was a common way of settling disputes. In medieval Germany, it extended to marriages. Spouses could fight each other to get divorced. However, these were not fistfights. A husband would stand in a hole with one hand behind his back. His wife ran around him, pelting him with rocks. He had to bat them away. 4. Celebrating the Feast of Fools. This feast came in the middle of the 12 days of Christmas. It was held on January 1st. Church officials were given a brief permission to be silly. Twelfth Night was celebrated on the night of January 5th. The centerpiece of Twelfth Night was the bean cake. It was a rich fruit cake in which a tiny bean was hidden. The person who got the bean was king for the night. The king could give people silly forfeits, which they had to obey. Another name for the king was the Lord of Misrule. He had the power to upend social hierarchies. 5. Baking hallucinogenic bread. Summer was a difficult time for medieval peasants. They often ran out of grain before the new crop could be harvested, so they had to resort to old rye to make bread. Unfortunately, stored rye could be infected with ergot. Ergot is a fungus that causes hallucinations, gangrene, and even death. This may have been responsible for many visions. 6. Wearing shoes with impossibly long toes. This ridiculous fashion began around the 1330s. The so-called Krackow shoes originated in Krakow, Poland. By the late 14th century, toes were so long they had to be reinforced. Wool, moss, or whalebone would be inserted. Nobles had to tie their toes to their leggings just to get around. Crusaders would chop the shoes off to escape the enemy. 7. Making others responsible for your hygiene. Henry VIII had people kiss his bed linen. He wanted to make sure it was not covered in poison. Many servants saw it as an honor. Even more weird was the position of the groom of the stool. He was a servant in charge of carrying a portable toilet. This allowed the king to defecate wherever he went. 8. Playing football with no rules. The medieval English version of soccer was a free-for-all. Any number of players could take part. Often entire villages would compete against each other. Any means of scoring were acceptable, except outright murder. Plenty of players were maimed and accidentally killed anyway. In 1341, King Edward II banned this sport.